This is an ABC News special report.
Good afternoon. I'm George Stephanopoulos in New York. We're interrupting your program because there have been two explosions today at the Boston Marathon. Two explosions near the finish line just a short while ago. You see the scene right there. Explosions right by the finish line. The winners had passed several hours before. Some stragglers were coming by, but several people on the scene are said to be injured. One man whose bib number was 17528, Frank DeRuyter of North Carolina, said there are a lot of people down. You see the commotion right there in Boston today. Of course, the Boston Marathon, one of the premier sporting events in the country. Two white explosions near the finish line in short sequence. We have ABC's Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas on the phone right now. Pierre, I know this has just happened minutes ago. Do you have any indication from anyone at Justice or Homeland Security about what might be behind this?
Well, I can tell you right now, the FBI and Justice Department and Homeland Security officials are trying to get information from the scene, sending assets there to try to get additional information to see exactly what might have transpired. It's, a lot of effort right now trying to just to get to the scene to assess what's going on. Don't have any clear answers. I'm expecting some information shortly.
You see the situation right there as well. Emergency officials on the scene. The explosion happened on the north side of Boylston Street about 3 hours after the first winner crossed the finish line. Police and fire officials on the scene right there. A second explosion was heard just a few seconds later. One report of 12 injuries so far, but as we said, this has just happened. The reports are just coming in from that Boston Marathon. Several thousand participating. You have to qualify for the Boston Marathon. The runners had been straggling through late in the afternoon, just around 3 o'clock when these explosions happened. Martha Raddatz, I know you're in Washington as well. Any more information coming in?
We really have nothing firm, George, except for the pictures we're seeing, and some of them really are quite graphic. There are clearly some very serious injuries at the scene. I spent many, many years in Boston covering that marathon myself. On those street corners, there are dozens, hundreds of people on those street corners, even though the winners have already passed. I know what we're looking at now is an incredible response. The FBI will certainly be on the scene soon. Medical personnel on the scene as well. But again, a very, very crowded area, and I can't tell you how joyful the situation usually is. The entire town comes out. I was just looking at some dispatches from a friend who said they were in Fenway Park, and then this happens. You can also see, obviously, probably National Guard in the area responding as well.
Fairmont Copley Plaza Hotel right by the finish line there. It has been put into lockdown since the booms were heard just a short while ago. No reports of casualties yet that we have. One woman was seen, was wheeled from the course with a leg injury, I should say, a Boston police officer. I am going back to Pierre Thomas right now. You're getting a little more information, Pierre?
Yes, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, along with the FBI and Department of Homeland Security officials, are responding. Typically, for events like this, you will have, federal terrorism task force working the case. Again, we don't have any idea exactly what caused the explosions, but one official in an email to me said it would be treated as a crime scene until they can prove otherwise.
Pierre, and you know they're being called in now, and forgive me if you don't have the answer to this question, but is this the kind of event where Homeland Security would have been involved in the preparations leading up to the event?
Typically, a national event like this, you will have federal involvement, working closely with local authorities in the event that you have an event like this, some sort of catastrophic event. Also, they would have been trying to gather intelligence about the event to see if there was anything untoward that had come up on their scope. There's no indication of that. Obviously, the event went forward. So now, right now, the federal authorities, along with the local authorities, are first trying to assess the damage, get a sense of the wounded, and next, trying to work on cause. What caused these explosions? Again, the eyewitness account is buttressed by what we're hearing from our federal sources, that two explosions that they know of. Again, they're trying to get information literally as we speak. And
no one that we know of, no organization that we know of, has taken any responsibility for setting off these explosions, correct?
Again, not that we know of. Again, it's going to be treated as a crime scene. Again, they have to rule out all possibilities. Right now, the effort is to get there, get people out of the line of fire, get people out of the situation, and then begin to assess what caused the explosions. Also, in a situation like this, they have to be mindful that there might be other potential explosions coming as well.
And to reinforce what Martha Raddatz was saying just moments ago, about 500,000 people go to watch the Boston Marathon every year. This year, more than 26,000 were expected to run in the marathon. As we said, the winners had crossed the line about 3 hours before this explosion took place. This is the 117th Boston Marathon, a major event every year, springtime in Boston. It looks like it was a fine day up there until these explosions happened just a short while ago, a little around 3 p.m. Eastern time. As you see, the emergency response out in force right now in Boston. There have been several reports of injuries, police and firefighter, emergency technicians on the scene right now. But as Pierre Thomas has just said, no organization has come forward to take responsibility yet. There had been no indication for Homeland Security that there was any threat to the Boston Marathon, at least that we know of right now. But of course, they have joined the effort now, trying to get to the bottom of just what happened at the Boston Marathon this spring afternoon. As you see the injured being wheeled away there in Boston right now. Martha Raddatz, and of course there's so much congestion at that finish line every year. That is where everyone comes to cheer these winners and their loved ones coming in.
They certainly do. They gather at all points along the route, but especially there at the finish line. I know the pictures that we've seen going around of the initial explosions and the smoke afterwards. The explosions themselves look fairly small, fairly contained, but it doesn't matter how small they are. They can do a lot of damage when people are around like that. Of course, the suspicion is raised because there were two apparent separate explosions. Now, I do think there are probably, and Pierre can talk to this better than I can, but probably up and down that route, they do check for bags that are left behind. They check for things like that, but you can hide devices if this in fact was some sort of device in a lot of places on that route, a lot of trash cans along that route, a lot of stores along that route, and obviously they don't check people, they don't check bags. This is a very open area. This is in the middle of the city. Anyone can stand there. Anyone could do any sort of damage.
The first report we got into ABC News was from our own Kendall Heath, who was on the scene nearby when those explosions went off. Kendall, what exactly did you see and what did you hear?
George, we were on the corner of Newberry Street and Boylston, right where the runners turn left to head towards the finish line. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, we heard a bang, if you will, and there was white smoke billowing out. From my view, it was on the left side of Boylston Street. And then about 30 seconds later, there was another bang and more white smoke in the same area, which was quite near the finish line.
Kendall, could you tell when you first heard those explosions how serious it might be? Did they sound like loud, powerful explosions?
It did sound very loud, George, but we didn't know if there was almost like a starting gun going off. But when we saw the smoke, it did not look like it was routine.
And did you see any injured on the scene from where you were? We're seeing some being wheeled away right now.
No, we were too far away. I was at least 3 or 4 blocks, but we did see and hear. I mean, obviously, when we heard the second explosion, we knew that something was wrong. It stopped all of the runners from making that left onto the finish and started evacuating the area, and obviously emergency personnel came on the scene.
Boston police now confirming that there were these 2 explosions on Boylston Street. The police, fire, and bomb squads are responding. They are also confirming injuries. They do not know exactly how many injuries, but they say there are definitely injuries on the scene right there. And you see all of the emergency officials in Boston coming out in force right now for this major event every year in Boston, the Boston Marathon. The 117th Boston Marathon has now been marred by 2 explosions near the finish line at approximately 3 p.m. Again, we're seeing more of the injured being wheeled away right now, but no indication yet who might have set these bombs, what might have caused them to go off. No one taking responsibility yet. I'm joined now at the desk by Diane Sawyer. We've never seen anything quite like this, Diane.
No, we haven't. And again, we don't want to leap to any conclusions, as you've been saying, George. In this time, we all think first of man-made devices, but there is no indication yet. We do not know that. Could be a malfunction of a completely different kind, and we want to stress it. Did we have Pierre Thomas standing by? Because I want to go back to Pierre. Tell me how they begin investigating this, Pierre. Can you give us any sense how they might know what would be the first forensics on that kind of explosion?
Well, one of the first things that they will do, obviously, is talk to eyewitnesses to see who saw this event take place. The next thing they begin to do is, once they can get the wounded and injured out of the area, is they begin to swab and look for residue to give them a sense of, okay, was this a bomb? Was this a gas explosion? What exactly is this? That's part of one of the first things that they do. They typically, again, have federal terrorism task forces that will be consulting and working with the local police, that the local police are a part of. They will be descending on the scene as well. But again, the first thing is to get the injured out of the situation and to then begin to assess what might have caused the damage.
Okay, thank you, Perry. As you go on to gather more information, let's go back to that moment just a short while ago near the finish line at the Boston Marathon. We have some video coming in of when the explosions went off. You see the white smoke right there. 4 hours into the marathon, a little over 4 hours into the marathon. A second explosion followed just seconds later. Police have now confirmed those explosions, say that there are injuries on the scene as we've seen them being wheeled away for the past several minutes. But as Diane has just been cautioning, we have no idea what might have set these, who or what might have set these explosions off just a short while ago.